Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 104 of the TV Knitting Podcast. Welcome back everybody. I am so happy to be sharing my afternoon with you. It is a beautiful, bright, sunny day, so I am upstairs in my studio recording. So let me just start with what I am wearing because I know I will have questions. And I don't believe that any of you have ever seen this or me describe it in the video section of the show. Maybe I have, I can't really remember. But this is the hitchhiker shawl. I spun and knit this in the summer of 2014. And I remember that because that was the summer I went to SSK. And the yarn is by, or the fiber is by Into the World in the Wibbly Wobbly Timey Wimey colorway. And I knit it into a hitchhiker. And I absolutely love this piece. I wear it all the time. And it's just beautiful. It's so colorful. And I did a fractal spin on this. And you can really see the colors really blended nicely and created this great striping effect. And the colors are blues and pops of this green, the chartreuse green that I love, and orange and reds, and they all just go together so lovely. And I'm really very happy with the shawl and how it came out. I spun it into a fingering weight, and the length of it is perfect, and I get a lot of wear out of it. So yeah, I wanted to tell you about that before we started. And I also want to talk a little bit about the show, and thank you guys for watching me on YouTube. I really appreciate it. What I think I'm going to do going forward is I'm going to upload the video portion of the show on YouTube only, and then I'm going to rip the audio and put that up on iTunes. And I did that for episode 103, so episode 103 is up on iTunes in audio format only. I should be able to get all of my shows uploaded that way during the month, and so many of you like to listen rather than watch, and I'm the same way. I love recording, or I love watching video recordings, but I also spend a lot of time listening to podcasts when I run or when I drive, or when I spin, or sometimes when I knit, or when I clean. So that's an option for you. If you don't have time to sit down and watch a video, it'll be on the go as well. So when you see me describe things like I just described this shawl, I will be more descriptive as far as colors and patterns and things like that, because that is going to be for the audio recording that I'll upload on iTunes. So let me know what you think about this in the episode thread, if that's good with you, or if I have enough people say, no, upload the videos on iTunes, I'll try to get them up there. It's just that the quality is not so great because I have to compress it. So anyway, a little bit of housekeeping today. So let's get started with the show, the meat of the show. Let's start with finished objects. The first thing I have to show you is my boot toppers. I think they came out fantastic, and I'm very, very happy with them. The pattern is paved, and this pattern has a beautiful 9-stitch cable running up and down, and in between that is garter stitches, and with ribbing at the top and bottom, and they're about, I'd say, 5 inches tall. And what they do is they just tuck into your boots, and they go right above the boot line, up kind of up to the knee, or lower, depending on how high your boots are. And I'll insert a picture right here of me wearing them. I wore them on Friday. I finished binding them off in the car on Friday, and I posted that on Instagram. And then I put them on at work, and I wore them all day, and they're so cozy. And you know what? They really keep your legs warm. Aside from the hand-knit socks I have in my boots, the boots, and then these, super warm. I love these. I may knit another pair in a brown tone, because the boots I wore the other day, as you can see in the picture, are brown-ish. They're tan, and I had these gray. They go with everything. I don't really care, but it'd be nice to have another pair in brown. And these would make such great gifts. The pattern is Paved by Tin Can Knits, and it's such a great pattern. I love it. I love knitting it. It was just my car knitting. I knit them on US size 8 DPNs, and that is a 5mm DPN. And I've been dabbling with DPNs lately. Not sure if I'm really in love with them. I started knitting in the round when I first learned to knit in the round. I started with DPNs, and I switched to Magic Loop just to try it and fell in love with that. But every once in a while, it's kind of fun to knit with DPNs, especially in public, because people think you're a magician knitting with 5 needles. So they don't know that you only use 2 for the knitting. So anyway, all in all, this project, fantastic. I absolutely love how it turned out. Speaking of DPNs and Magic Loop, I worked on my socks a little bit this week. They had gone into hiatus when I did the boot toppers, but look how pretty. So these do not match. I talked about this on a previous show. What had happened was I cast these on, and I thought that I was starting in the right spot on both skeins, and it turns out this large pink here got flipped when I wound, so it's fine. So this one starts with a light pink stripe, and this one starts with a red stripe after the medium pink. And I don't care, they're fine, they're beautiful. So I am knitting this one on Magic Loop, and I am knitting this one on DPNs. And these are the Addy Flip Sticks, and I really like them. They're just grippy enough to stay in your work, but smooth enough so they don't drive me insane, because I have to have a slick needle. This is also an Addy. It is an Addy Sock Rocket. And I am knitting these on size 1. And the millimeter is, let's see, these are a 2.5 millimeter needle. They're the big ones. And like I said, I've been kind of ordering needles lately and looking into needles. You got the small one, which is a 2.25, and then you have the larger one, which is 2.5, and then you've got the 2, which is 2.75, and then you've got the 2.5, which is 3, and then different needle companies label them differently, and it's, hello, anybody else have that problem? I've got it straightened out now. I'm trying to really learn the millimeters on them. I don't know them yet, but I'm trying, because it's so much easier to go by millimeters rather than the US sizes, because it's not, the standards aren't aren't that great. Even if you look it up online, different companies list them differently. So it's a little confusing, I must admit. However, I have to say that I like knitting this one on my magic loop much more than I'm enjoying knitting this one on the DPNs. But anyway, I'm knitting them, as you can see, concurrently. And I'm putting in an afterthought heel. I did put in an afterthought heel ripcord here. And I think I'm going to do a heel by Lara Neal. I had bought two of her afterthought heel patterns. One of them is the hat head heel, where you just knit it like the top of a hat. And I'm not sure what the other one is. So I'm going to try those for a change. I've tried several different heels in my socks, and afterthought heels fit me okay. One of my socks recently I did Afterthought Heels Revisited by Laura Linneman, which is a free pattern, and I liked it. I loved how it fit. The only thing about it that I wasn't crazy about is I think she uses Japanese short rows, and I didn't like them. So if I knit it again, I'll probably just use regular short rows. I think you can. It's just I'll have to figure it out how to do it. So, but nothing against the heel. It's just me. I just wasn't wild about the Japanese short rows in the pattern so much. It was a little fiddly for me. Anyway, so sock knitting back on deck. My next pair of socks I'll talk about those next week. I'm not going to talk about them today. Next project. This is growing quite slowly, but I am loving knitting it. This is Peace Blossom by Boo Knits, and I am knitting it out of the Angry Orchard colorway in lace weight in Wool and Vine yarns, and it's coming out fantastic. I found these great green beads that match beautifully, and yeah, I'm really enjoying knitting this. It's awesome. So I'm just doing a little bit each day. I'm doing 2 rows a day, and it'll add up eventually. I'm supposed to do 10 repeats of this pattern, the main body of the shawl pattern, and I've completed 5. So halfway there with the main part. I won't finish this main body probably till the end of March with 2 rows a day, and I don't really work on it on weekends. So I just do it before I start work, and I'm nice and fresh in the morning in order to knit lace. So I'm really enjoying it. The colors in this are beautiful peaches and tans and beautiful pops of chartreuse green and brown. There's some speckling in this yarn, and I love it. I absolutely love it. Taking my time with it and enjoying it, so I'm great with that. And it's in I don't know if I talked about this last week. This is one of my Fat Squirrel Speaks bags by Amy Beth of the Fat Squirrel Speaks. And I love this springy bag, so I'm really enjoying this project. This next project is also in a Fat Squirrel bag. My favorite one. I love this bag. I love the hand of the fabric for some reason. It's just soft and squishy. It's one of her first bags that I think that she made years ago, and I just love this bag. I use it all the time. It's been washed. It washed up great. I've spilled salad dressing on it. It came out in the wash, so it's very well made. It's been through the ringer, and it's still holding up fine. So this I consider to be my main project. This is Huhui by Joji Locatelli, or Jujue. And I have so many good things to say about this pattern. It is probably one of my most favorite patterns to knit ever. shawl patterns, or maybe any pattern I've ever knit. It is just wonderful. It flows nicely. You start out by making a garter triangle, and then you move into this beautiful mesh pattern. And then now I'm on the colorwork part, and it's 2 colors, and I pretty much went with her color scheme. I did natural colors, so I have this off-white with a little bit of a blue cast here, and then my next color is like a pinkish tan, and I'm using Plucky Knitter yarn in the Primo base, and I'll pop in the colors underneath here, but I just love these colors. They're beautiful. Oh, this is Putty in My Hands, and this is some sort of winter color. I forget the name of it. So what's lovely about this pattern is that you never get bored, although it's not really complicated knitting. You can just memorize what you need to do and go. The last shawl pattern that I knit from Hohi was Imagine When, and that was a little more complicated. There was a lot of, well, this has short rows. That also had short rows, but it was more of a complicated stitch repeat. And I eventually did memorize it, but it was a little harder. And I had a hard time reading it, and I did a lot of ripping on that one. So far, so good on this one, knock on wood. I haven't had to rip back anything. So it's super easy to knit. Great TV knitting. Great podcast watching knitting. It's just lovely. Right now I'm just doing garter stitch. The whole thing is garter stitch, but right now I'm just doing these garter stitch color rows, but they're so fun because I can't wait to see what it's going to look like when it builds up. Love this pattern so much, and it's beautiful, and I'm enjoying every minute of my knit on it, and I'm knitting on it every chance I get because it's awesome. Oh, by the way, I showed you last week I had a mess when I wound this Putty in My Hands, Plucky Knitter Putty in My Hands color, and I just sat one night and found the end and untangled it. Took me maybe 20 minutes, so I didn't have to cut it. Yay! And it came out fine. Somebody also messaged me on Ravelry saying that they had trouble winding Plucky Knitter skeins. So I don't know. I've only wound the 2. I'll just have to be mindful of that moving forward when I wind my skeins by that dyer and make sure that I'm careful not to get a mess. So yeah, but I can't say enough good things about that pattern. If you want a great fun shawl pattern that you're just going to really enjoy, highly recommend Huhui, and it's in the Authentic collection that Hohi released. I believe she released it in January. Great collection. I want to knit at least 5 patterns out of there. Which leads us into the next pattern I am knitting, which is another part of the collection, and that is Big Old Coat. This is my evening knitting, and it's coming along. The problem with it being evening knitting is that it's dark when I'm knitting it. Even though I have a nice bright light over my shoulder, it's still, it's dark. So I can see it okay. It's just, yeah, you can see how dark it is. But it's gorgeous, and let me explain it to you. So this part, it starts off with a ribbed collar, and the collar starts in the middle of the neck, and then you pick up from that collar and you work downwards to do the back. So I'm on the back now, and I have to knit 6 inches of the back, and I'm about halfway there. And then I divide for the sleeves somehow. It's very ingenious the way she wrote the pattern to fit together. So I'm really enjoying it, and it's just, it's just my kind of relaxing knitting. It's a 8-row stitch pattern because it's kind of like this basket weavy seed stitchy thing. And I thought I was wondering whether I'd like this pattern, but I love it. You only have to do the knit 1 purl 1 for 2 rows out of the 8, and then the other ones are just like purl knits and knit purls, and like 3 knits and a purl. So it's fun. It's a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying the stitch pattern. So that's all I got done on that. That's going to take me a while because I only really get an hour a night to knit on it, and the last few nights I didn't even touch it, but what are you going to do? Okay. Alright, so I only want to talk about one more thing that I worked on this week. Alright, so there's a story behind this. You guys have seen this sweater. This is my Rhinebeck sweater. And I love this sweater very much. It was an Amy Herzog custom fit pattern, and I adore how it fits. It's got these set-in sleeves that look fantastic on anyone as far as I'm concerned. I just love how they fit my shoulders. I love it. It's wonderful. Love the whole sweater except for one thing. It's too short. So be mindful if you do a custom fit pattern. She tends to write her patterns to be short. And this one hits me right at my hip bones, and I don't like that on me. I think it makes me look even shorter waisted than I am, really. So I really need to add about 1.5 to 2 inches to the sweater to make it look better, I think, on me. And I did that with the last custom fit pattern that I knit, and I showed that to you a few weeks ago, that Botticelli red sweater. I lengthened the pattern. So, what to do with this thing? Because I'm not going to wear it short. And after I blocked it for Rhinebeck, and it kind of stayed almost long enough, but then you know how wool is, it shrinks back up because this wool has a lot of memory, so it's super short. So I decided, well, what I could do is I could pick up and then knit down and just add more ribbing, and that would be fine. And I started to do that, actually. I picked up stitches and I started adding ribbing, and you know, honestly, this yarn is so rustic that you wouldn't even notice that I had done that, really, unless you really looked at it closely. But then I'm thinking, you know what? This is a hand-spun sweater. I spent many hours spinning the yarn. I spent many hours knitting it up. I want it to look the best it can. So naturally I Googled how to lengthen a bottom-up sweater. And I found a tutorial by, oh, I can't think of who she is right now. I think it was a Knitting Daily tutorial. And what you do basically is you pick up stitches along the above the cast off edge, and then you cut it and unravel. So I would have to unravel all the way up to the cable and then knit it back down again and, you know, continue the cable and the stockinette pattern and then do the ribbing. So that's what I'm going to do. And since it's knit in pieces, I'm going to have to undo my mattress stitch for those few inches, which shouldn't be a problem. I was looking at it and I can find it, even though it's pretty rustic, and you know, I'll have to do this in the light, in the real good daylight. So yeah, I'm going to rip back what I started here, the extension of the rib, and I'm going to try it. I'm going to take out the mattress stitch on the sides up to the cable. I'm going to pick up the stitches according to the tutorial. I think it was Michelle Wong. Michelle Wong did the tutorial. So I'm going to pick up the stitches according to the tutorial and then knit probably at least 2 more inches and, you know, add 2 inches of length and then do the ribbing. So I'm going to be doing that over the summer because I need light and I need time to figure it out. And I'm going to be cutting into my hand-spun sweater. Yeah, that's a little crazy, but I want to wear it next year, and I don't want to look silly in it. I probably don't really look silly in it, but to me I do. So anyway, that's the other thing that I kind of figured out this week. And that leads us to spinning. Okay, spinning. So I did a sample this week. I did a formal sample. And last week I talked about doing wraps per inch, so I'm doing a 4-ply. So I have a sample. I had a single that was about 40 wraps per inch. Very, very, very fine. I'm sure you can't even see that. I don't even know. It's extremely fine. Long draw on my matchless. So I spun that and then I plied it on my matchless again, and I came up with this 4-ply, which is not bad. It's just a little bit too thin, just a little. And I actually have not measured it wraps per inch to see if it's 10. I don't know, because it's still tied up in the skein. So I'll do that after the show, and I'll let you know what it is. So I'm going to take this ruler, and in order to do wraps per inch, you start wrapping at the 1 inch. So I'm going to wrap from 1 inch to 2 inches, and then I would just wrap my yarn lightly, and then I would see how many wraps between 1 inch and 2 inch. And this should be about with this thin yarn, between 30 and 40. And then I don't know what this is, so we'll see. But I'm very happy with the way the yarn came out. It's beautiful. I'll probably do a swatch with it, and I'll show you next week. And maybe this will work. I don't know. I've started sampling again, and I'm spinning a little bit of a fatter single. So we'll see how that comes out. And I'll ply that up and I'll show you next week. But this is really beautiful, and it's soft. It's great. So the color is a very natural gray, like a silvery gray, and the fiber is a Romney fleece that I got at Connecticut Sheep and Wool last year, and the sheep's name was Taja. So I'm really happy to be getting this on my wheel. Thrilled. So a 4-ply. I only have a Lazy Kate with 3 parts to it, so I can only use my Lazy Kate to make a 3-ply. So I had to improvise to make this 4-ply yarn, and I had a very simple tool that I was able to kind of DIY. And what this is a basket that I bought at Target a few years ago, and I keep it by my ball winder, and I put tags in it and things. And it's got these 2 grommets. Here's one, here's another. And then I just take a long knitting needle and I insert the needle in the basket. And then on that knitting needle, what I did is I put my bobbin. So I speared the bobbin with the knitting needle and went through the 2 holes. And there. I had my 4th nitty knotty improvised, where it will turn very easily, and I can do my 4-ply. Worked fantastic. I was very happy with it. So I don't intend on buying another nitty knotty. I'll just use this. Okay. This brings us to Unwrapped. I have to confess to you, I peeked at this. I did not have that much restraint. Because what happened was, as soon as I finished recording last week, it came in the mail. And I have been wanting to see this color for months. So when I started becoming a little obsessed with plucky knitter yarn, I went through all the colors and I fell in love with a color called Old Lace, which is a lot like Putty in My Hands, that one I just showed you. So I ordered a sweater's worth in the Bellow fingering base, which is the cashmere, merino cashmere base. 50% merino, 50% cashmere. And I had to wait a month for it. And I'm going to be knitting a Hitofude cardigan from it. And I've been wanting to knit this cardigan forever. Everybody's knit it. And I wanted it in a neutral color. But I also wanted it in a luxurious yarn. So I placed this order. It came last week just after I recorded, and I just slid it open because I just wanted to see the color. But I haven't taken it out of the package yet. I cheated, sorry. So here it is. I'm taking it out for the very first time. Ooh, very beautiful. Very similar, like I said, to Putty in My Hands. Look at the depth of color on this. It's just lovely. And for those of you listening, it is a tan with a very subtle pink overtone. It's gorgeous, and it will make a beautiful Hitofude cardigan. And yeah, I'm holding it up. It looks like it'll look nice with my skin tone. I don't think it'll wash me out, really. Like I said, I just wanted a neutral color. And I wanted a light color because I'm knitting this dark cardigan right now, and it's, oof, yikes, it's dark. So I really prefer knitting with lighter colors. So I want to compare this to Putty in My Hands. So I have that right here. I just want to see the similarities or differences. Okay, so this is definitely more pink to my eye. You probably won't see the difference on camera, but this is the Putty in My Hands, and this is the old lace. This is definitely, the old lace is definitely pinker, just slightly. But these colors are just beautiful. She does such amazing tonals, solids. Oh, it's gorgeous. And these are very well matched. I should have plenty for my Hitafude. I'm not alternating skeins. Just not doing it. It's not really what I'm interested in doing at all. So, yep. I have 4 skeins of it. 380 yards per skein, a little over 1,000 yards. I should have plenty. I may only need 3. So if I only need 3, I'll destash the 4th, or maybe knit a shawl out of it because it's beautiful. I love it. I'm really happy with it. So when to start this one? I have a lot on my plate. I want to knit that Martina Bem shawl. And I want to have a month where I just really concentrate on socks. And I want to finish this by June, the end of June. I don't think it's going to happen, but I could try. So as soon as I finish, I'll have to see. I'll play it by ear. I'll see what I want to cast on when I finish my shawl that I'm knitting. The Joji Locatelli shawl, and we'll see how far I get on this big old coat project. Okay. So I talked a little bit about needles today, and I'd like to end my show with a little organizing tip for your needles. And you should see this room. I said to my son when he came upstairs to help me, I said, this room is a disaster area. I apologize. And he said, what happened in here? And I said, well, just to set all this up for recording was a little crazy today. So if you saw this room, you'd say, Sharon, you are not organized. And I would say, you are right. It's funny, this time of year, things get a little crazy at my house, because I do a lot of organizing in the summer when I'm off. So I need to, and I do it during the year, but things are starting to close in on me and I need to really sit down and organize. However, I want to show you my system for needle organization. It's really quite simple. I bought this accordion file at Walmart, of all places. I don't usually shop there, but I get allergy meds there, and I saw these, and I got one for my paperwork, and I got another one, this smaller one, for needles. And the paperwork one is working out beautifully because I can't stand paper everywhere. It gets filed right away, either in the circular file or in a file. So this is what I use for my needles, and it's got this nice opening, so inside there are these tabs that you can write on. And I have all my needles organized in here. So I labeled them from size 0 to size 15. And so I have 0, well no, 0, 0 I started with. So I have them organized by needle size and also by length, needle length. And you know what I think I'm going to do later today maybe? I'm going to take these tabs off, and I'm also going to put down the millimeter. That'll help me learn it. So that's how I have them organized. It's very, very simple. And I try when I finish a project to put them back in so I don't lose needles. I have lost needles, but it's getting better. And I pretty much exclusively knit with Addy Turbo Rockets. That's my favorite needle. And I have, in most sizes, I have 124 and 132. I do not care for interchangeable needles because they tend to become unscrewed on me. Even if I use the little key that comes with it, I just don't want to take the chance of them coming unscrewed and having my stitches fall off. I don't want to deal with that. So my needles are all fixed. And when I have completed, and I usually keep them in their little pockets, even though this one is not in its little pocket. I need to put it back in its little pocket. And what I also do is I have for each, and I got this idea from Stacy from Mustache Yarns, I have a little 3x5 index card with the name of the needle and where the needle is residing. And I actually need to update this one. I can see I put the needle back, but I didn't put it back in its little case. And this was in my Botticelli red sweater, and I just need to cross that out because it's no longer in there. It is back in its little case, and I'm good. So I pretty much no longer have to say, you know, where is my needle, because I have it written down. Because I have a lot of things on the go, and you know, sometimes if I'm thinking about starting something new or I'm switching a needle, I want to know where they all are. So it's my little tip for the week. I've been wanting to talk about that, and I had a little time and thought I would do that for you. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the show for the week. I hope you guys have a great week and get a lot of knitting done. Enjoy the beautiful spring weather that's going to be coming up very soon. Today is our St. Patrick's Day parade in town. I never go. I don't want to get into all the crowds, but when it happens, I know that spring is coming. So again, have a great week. Happy knitting. Cheers.